if I can show it. Can you see that?
Yes.
All right. So from the Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto. So I'll just read the Sanskrit once. Nayam vidant yami bupa ekaramas cha vishnayaha maya javani kachanam atmanam kalam ishwaram. And let me just move this so I can actually see the word for word. Okay. Nam means not, and yam means whom, vidanti, no. Ami, these, bupa, interesting word, right? Kings. Eka, together. Arama, who enjoy. Cha, and Vishnaya, that's easy, the Vishnis. Maya, we're familiar with that, both personally and what it means. The divine power of illusion. Javanika, by the curtain. Achanam, covered. Atmanam, the Supreme Soul. Kalam, time. And Ishwaram, just like we have Ishwara Sundari in the class today. Ishwaram, the Supreme Controller. So the translation, neither these kings, nor even the Vrishnis, who enjoy your intimate association, know you as the soul of all existence, the force of time, and the Supreme Controller. For them, you are covered by the curtain of Maya. And the purport says that Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti explains that Lord Krishna's family, the Vrishnis, were too familiar with him to realize that he is the super soul residing in the heart of every created being. Everyone sees Krishna differently, including everyone on this call. On this Zoom meeting, we'll see Krishna slightly differently, if not very differently. And those kings at Kurukshetra, who were not devotees of Krishna, could not recognize him as time, the annihilator of everything. That's talked about in previous verse, and also Kunti Devi in her prayers, she talks a lot about time and Krishna's control of time. Devotees and non-devotees are both covered by Maya. Now, if you just ended the sentence there, you'd probably scratch your head, right? Devotees and non-devotees are both covered by Maya, but in different ways. The but is the important word there, right? Like if I say, Henry's a really nice devotee, but all you do is remember what came after the word but. So yes, they're covered by devotees and non-devotees are covered by Maya, but it's very important, those next four words in different ways. For the materialists, Maya is illusion. But for the Vaishnavas, she acts as Yoga Maya, the internal potency who covers their awareness of the Supreme Lord's majesty and engages them in his eternal pleasure pastimes. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindubhyevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So we are really, really smart. We know much more than everybody else. We know more than the Vrishnis, because the Vrishnis don't know that Krishna is a super soul, but we know that. Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavaniti, Shabdate. We definitely know more than the gopis, right? They only know Krishna as this cowherd boy, but we know that, universes come out of the pores of his skin holes as Mahavishnu, and we know that he's a super soul, and we know more than and the cowherd boys, or Nanda and Yashoda, all the Brijbasis, we know a lot more than them, because we see that we you can say we have stepped back and we're looking at the big picture. We know Krishna is the impersonal Brahman. We know he's the in the super soul. We know that he's different in Dwarka and Mathura and Vrindavan, And they just know they're so they're so like their blinders are on, so focused that they just know him as the most loving person in Vrindavan. So we don't really even need this class, let's face it. We know so much more than everybody else. And and obviously I'm being facetious, but on one level it's true. Right? We're not well, we probably are covered by the illusory Maya a lot, but we're not covered by the so much well, some of us at least on this call, not so much covered by that internal energy the way the Brijbasis are. And so by reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, listening to Srila Prabhupada, we have on one level the big picture. On one level. And this topic almost always morphs into what I would say is probably the number one question that over the last so many years I've been attending classes is asked, and that is, what does Krishna mean in chapter 4, verse 9 of the Bhagavad Gita? Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattvatva. What is the rest of that verse? Takta deham punar janma naiti mam eti sorjuna. Did I get that right? That one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving this body, take birth again in the material world, but attains my eternal abode. So devotees always say, well, I know, I accept Krishna's activities are transcendental. So is it all said and done? Right? How many? I'm sure everyone has heard that question once, if not multiple times in class. So we're going to try to tackle that a little bit ourselves again today. So the key word there is tattvata. One way of translating that is one who perfectly understands the nature of my activities. And let's focus a little bit on that nature of Krishna's activities. To do that, to really understand the nature of his activities, and thank you, Jeffrey, for putting that in there. We need to feel his participation in our lives. And really, and by doing that, and of course, hearing the Shastra and all the other processes that we hear in most classes that we attend, we can come to that tattvata, to really perfectly understanding his nature. Some people, they can't accept God because they can't understand how there's evil in this world, right? Some may be able to reconcile the evil, but understanding him as a person, like in the Puranas. Some may even understand that theoretically, but then some of the things in the Puranas are far, I mean, come on, appearing as a boar, out of the nostril of Brahma. Come on. And some may even be able to reconcile that, but then to understand Krishna and his pastimes right here in Govardhan and in Vrindavan, that's not so easy. The example I heard once, which I really like, so if you don't take anything else away from this class, maybe this example will stick. And that is that of a painting. So if someone goes to an art gallery like the Louvre in Paris or the Guggenheim in New York or wherever, what is it called, Henry? The Shackle in Washington, D.C.? Something like that. And we see what is considered a really famous painting. Now, a person who's really has no interest in art, they might look at it and just say, what a waste. I could have used that canvas to, cover something in my house, and there's this stupid painting there, right? That may be they just see it as a crude painting. And the next step, others might think, well, I don't know about it. Paintings are supposed to, be like a photograph and just, so this is a useless painting. It's because it doesn't at all look like what a person would look like or what a house would look like or whatever. So they might, just discard it because it doesn't represent any kind of realism. And then a person who like has some education in general, they might just think kind of like a Gyani kind of thing. Well, this is just excessive imagination. And then another person who's kind of expert in art, they might appreciate the symbolism and the composition. But only the real connoisseur will actually be delighted and feel the emotion that guided the artist. Right? That connoisseur is kind of rare. What's that person, Bhagavad Gita, about rareness? Out of many thousands amongst men, one may attain, that verse, somebody can put it in the chat. And to find a real devotee is very rare. And then someone who actually understands Krishna and his pastimes in Vrindavan, super, super rare. As much as the true connoisseur of art. And I'm not like, when my mother took me to the art galleries in New York, in Manhattan when I was a kid, I would just be bored to death. I was just like, oh God, But the real connoisseur in bhakti is one who can enter into the love that Krishna is exchanging with, especially with the Brijbasis, and the intensity of that love, the intensity of Mother Yashoda, saying that she would rather die 1,000 deaths than for Krishna to experience one, drop of perspiration. Just the intensity of love, and even how bhakti is actually what controls. Sometimes I was going to ask the question, well, what really controls everything in Vrindavan? But then it's kind of a trick question because devotees could come up with 3 or 4 very good answers to that. But it's really, on one level, it's the love of the devotees. It's even more powerful than Krishna. And the example is given of in the Aghasura Lila, that Krishna knew that it was, figured out this is Aghasura, and he actually didn't want the cowherd boys to enter Aghasura's mouth. But the cowherd boys wanted to enter his mouth to be saved by Krishna. And even though Krishna didn't want it, Krishna was shocked that his desire was not they didn't follow his desire. And that's because in Vrindavan, even greater than Krishna's desire is the love of the devotees. That's what really controls things in Vrindavan. So we want to gradually or quickly become a connoisseur of that understanding of Krishna, and understand his motivation. And it's not easy in this world, but to come to the understanding that Krishna is only motivated by bhakti, is only motivated by exchanging love. That's it, in the final sense of the word. And that our sadhana is to come in contact with that love. Sadhana means practice, right? I was going to talk about Allen Iverson, but most of you wouldn't know that cultural reference. Anyway, he was a basketball player who joked about practice wasn't important. It's kind of a funny clip on YouTube. But our practice, sometimes we think sadhana, we sadhana means really strict, right? Sitting up straightly and chanting all your rounds in one sitting. And it's practice. That of course is sadhana, but it's not a bad word. It's a wonderful word. It's practicing to understand Krishna's motivation. It's practicing to enter into our own lives, experience that love, because it's not easy to understand Krishna. Kunti Devi in verse 29 of the 8th chapter of the first canto of the Bhagavatam, she says, Naveda kaschid bhagavams chikirsitam Taved hamanasya nrinam vitambanam. And that means that she's praying to one of her prayers. And she's saying, "Oh Lord, no one can understand your transcendental pastimes, which appear to be human and so are misleading." They appear to be, so Nrina means human. They're human-like. And it's even said that even as hard as it may be to fully grasp the incarnation as Vamanadev or Varaha or Nrsimha, it's actually the most difficult to enter into Krishna's human-like pastimes because they seem human-like. And then, therefore, the natural tendency is comparing to our experience in life. And Prabhupada writes in that purport, Srila Prabhupada writes in that purport, one sentence I'll read, his pastimes appear to be exactly like a human being's, but actually they are transcendental and without any tinge of material contamination. So this is our challenge to enter into, to have that, what's the word I'm looking, to have that frame, in conflict resolution in my field, lots of times we try to reframe things, look at them from a different point of view. If somebody says in a mediation that he's such a slob, it's so filthy, and then the mediator, I'll say, so cleanliness is really important to you. So that's called reframing. You're looking at it. And usually they go, yeah, cleanliness is really important to me. So there's so many things in this world that happen to us and that we see in this world, like, the stock market going lousy yesterday and all the things. And, where's Krishna's love? Where's Krishna in all of this? And whether it's seeing Krishna in all that, or at least seeing what should be our Krishna conscious reaction, that's the challenge of our life, to remember and to in one way or another see that the only purpose of this life is to develop our love for Krishna. And other things are nice. They're part of life, but that's our goal. Yesterday I heard this excerpt from a lecture by Radhanath Swami. It was from 2011, and it was in Chopati, the day of the I don't know, is it the World Cup? I don't know what it's called, the finals of the cricket match, and India was playing. So one really staunch brahmachari asked Maharaj a question that you could see he was looking for a particular answer, because in the question he was saying things like, Maharaj, some devotees, they're really talking about cricket a lot because, and they really are rooting for India. And isn't that just the bodily concept of life, that they just think they're Indian, but actually we're spirit soul? And then he asked like a second part of the question, which was, and other devotees, they get into this mundane philanthropy and education and just try to be nice to other people. And what's the use of being nice if we don't give them Krishna consciousness? So a very nice devotee, I know him well, but he asked this question, and of course this was 14 years ago. He's probably looks at things a little differently today. And Maharaj answered it so expertly. Because everyone's mind, you have to, in India, everyone's mind was on the cricket match that day. And so Maharaj said, well, you can't really avoid this. And he said, I've lived in India 40 years from now, so 40 years now, so I probably wouldn't mind if India won. He said, and of course, everyone claps and roar, Um, and he said, the main thing is just not take those things so seriously. You might be a little rooting for India, or you might this, but don't. We know it has nothing to do with the goal of life, but we might still talk about it. But don't take it seriously. And then he said, other people who are philanthropic, etc. He said, some of that is the mode of goodness, and don't we do want to encourage. We know the mode of goodness is better than passion and ignorance. That's clear from the Bhagavad Gita. But he said similarly, so yes, we can encourage those people, but we know that the goal of life is something else. It's Krishna Krishna bhakti and loving Krishna and understanding his love, as we're talking about in this class. So he said, yes, you might recognize those things, or you might encourage someone who's being philanthropic, but we don't forget the goal. It's just like that verse, Anyabilashita sunyam jnana karma anavritam, that pure devotional service, anya abilas, that other desires other than serving Krishna should become sunyam, zero. And what are those other desires? Jnana karma anavritam. Karma, looking out for number one, or, sense gratitude, whatever things for ourselves. Jnana, impersonal understanding. Adi means etc. But the word anavritam means not to cover. So again, we may do other things in this world, but they shouldn't cover our bhakti, because this is a lifetime project to fully reframe, right, and enter into and understand Krishna's pastimes, and that his motivation in all those pastimes, and and even perhaps more immediately in our life, is motivated by love, by care, by compassion. He's not a jealous God. He's the nicest, and that takes work. That work, maybe I'm wrong. That takes love. That takes introspection. That takes reframing. That takes an effort. That takes bringing the mind back to when we're complaining about something that somebody said and something happened, and bringing it back to the bigger picture. Like Prabhupada once said, do not be upset at the agent of your karma. So imagine the next time someone, takes your parking spot or talks about you in a bad way on Instagram or whatever it is, and that do not be upset at the agent of your karma. They're just handing you your karma on a silver platter. So that was the main topic I want to talk today. I think we'll take questions. Look, there's still time, or comments, and if those run out, then we'll talk about the second part of this purport, and that is, which shelter are we gonna? If the soul takes shelter, either takes shelter of Yogamaya or Mahamaya, but we're small and we have to take shelter. But first, some thoughts, comments, questions on what we spoke about so far. I see 2 hands raised. I don't know. Oh, the Bhakti Center has their hand up.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, can you hear us?
Yep.
We delight in your existence. That's a good devotee. And how you bring this right into our heart, about presenting the contents of Bhagavatam. The thing which you said to reflect on, what do we really care about? And there's a tendency, if you really want to be absorbed in Krishna consciousness, then it's heart and soul. There's an intensity to our and there are feelings involved, not just ivory tower academic understanding. I was in this bodega, little delicatessen near here, and there were 3 gentlemen.
Oops. We lost him. But if you see Adipurush going into bodega, you know that he's going to preach Krishna consciousness and not buy any wrong things. You know that story, Lord Nityananda. Jeffrey, let's hear from you and we'll get back to the Bhakti Center.
I don't know what happened there. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay, Jeffrey. Hold on. Putting Jeff on hold. Yeah, go ahead. We heard you were going to the bodega to preach Krishna consciousness.
I went in there, yeah. I forget why I went in there, but there were 3, the cab drivers go there, and there were 2 cab drivers, and there was a guy behind the counter, and they were all from Egypt. And they were screaming and yelling in another language, and I was thinking, oh, they feel very deeply about this. They're taking this really seriously. They're yelling and screaming and waving their arms and jumping up and down. And I thought they must be talking about politics, or maybe they're talking about religion. They're so serious, you know. And one guy took up his hat and threw it on the ground and started stepping on it, you know. I'm thinking, oh my God, maybe somebody raped his daughter. This is very intense. And so the one who was more to the rear of the conversation, I told him, I said, what are they talking about? He said, soccer. So like, you know,
Yeah, that's really important. Yeah.
the tendency to be absorbed in these other things other than devotional service to Krishna is there. Somehow or other we'll put our heart into something and it become very have to have deep feelings and expression, you know. So
Yes.
you know, but imagine just like Chintamani the prostitute, she said to Bilbamangala Thakur, if you were as fixed on getting to Krishna as you were fixed on coming to see me tonight, crossing the river, climbing up the wall, and all this stuff, you know, you would go back to Godhead, you know. So the point is that the the quality and the intensity of our feeling for something is interesting, and I actually relish seeing a little bit of sports because I see the focus they have, the cooperation they have, the giving it all, going against adversity, and you know, I'm thinking if I could just do that, you know, in my service to Krishna, it would probably be a better. You can get something from it and use it to help you to motivate in devotional service. Anyway, maybe it's a little distraction, this comment over.
Thank you, Adi Bruce. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Jeffrey?
Soccer.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for this class and the reflections it's leading me to. In thinking about this concept of pastimes appearing mundane and being transcendental on behalf of the Lord, but then thinking about it in terms of ourselves, because I think that that's naturally where we head. And in terms, and you had mentioned something to the effect of, you know, the remembering Krishna and acting in the world as though you are aware of Krishna. And so it got me thinking, you know, what's the difference for, you know, a fallen soul like myself between, you know, some overtly religious or spiritual activity and changing a diaper. If Krishna has the ability to make transcendental activities mundane, doesn't he have the ability to make our mundane activities transcendental?
What do you think?
I think, personally, I think that there's probably no difference between serving the deity and serving a child. But that may be very offensive to people who serve deities all day. And the reverse of that might be very offensive to people who serve children all day.
Do you want to know what I think?
What do you think?
I'm not going to tell you. No.
I absolutely want to know what you think. That's why I'm asking.
Well,
first
I'm going to talk about it on the Shastric level, and then we'll talk about it on the practical level. How does that sound?
Yes, please.
Okay. So there is something called Swarup Siddhi Bhakti. And what that means is the very nature of it is spiritual. And that is particularly the 5 most potent items of devotional service: chanting Krishna's name, hearing the Bhagavatam, associating with devotees, worshiping the deity, and living in a holy place or making your home a holy place. They're by the very intrinsically spiritual. Now, in a few minutes, we'll talk about, you can do that and be in total Maya while you're doing those, but the activity is, in one sense, the same as we would do in the spiritual world. We glorify Krishna here by chanting his name. We glorify Krishna in the spiritual world. We worship the deity here. We worship Krishna. So they're Swarup Shakti. Their very essence of the activity is spiritual. And then there is Aropya Siddhi Bhakti, and that is what you're talking about, Jeffrey, in one part of your question. And that is connecting things that, like changing a diaper, is not intrinsically spiritual, but doing that and thinking of Krishna, or wanting to make this child a devotee, what somehow connecting it with, then you can connect it, like going to work. I'm a consultant for NASA. That NASA is not intrinsically spiritual, right? But if some of the Lakshmi that I make from that, I give to a Krishna conscious activity, or I talk to people there about Krishna, then I can spiritualize it. So there is this distinction, and yet on one level, and as you're pointing out, there's also the consciousness behind that. You can be chanting, you can go shnik shnik kitty kitty ray ray shnik shnik kitty kitty ray, and thinking about really whatever, right? And you can be working your job and be thinking of Krishna, or thinking how wonderful, with some of this Lakshmi, I'm going to sponsor a set of books for the marathon, or whatever, whatever like that. And that can be very spiritual. So there's these two things going on, the very nature of something, and then the consciousness. And it also ties in, I think I mentioned this in the last class. This might be the other thing. If you remember the painting example, and remember these two Sanskrit words, Chesta Rupa and Bhava Rupa. Chesta Rupa, CESTA, is the activity in devotional service, and Bhava Rupa, like the word bhav, is the emotion, the mood, the consciousness in which we're doing it. And I don't know about y'all, but that's my joke, right? I'm from the south part of Long Island, y'all. But we can do the chesta without the bhava. Right? And so one of the big tests for us, especially, you look on this call and so many people have been practicing Krishna consciousness for a long time, or are very, very sincere devotees. We really want to make sure that we add the bhava, actually do it with, my mother-in-law used to say, Irish woman, with a heart and a half. Right? So is that all right, Jeffrey? Or did you want to follow up on that?
No, that makes perfect sense, and I think that we can all identify with the situation that you're describing, as we struggle to chant and keep the mood and the activity aligned, as much as we struggle to do anything else in our day and keep the mood and the activity aligned.
Right.
So I think that it's interesting that you bring these 5 key activities up, and also that you've spoken to the fact that they can be done with the incorrect mood, or a disaligned mood. I shouldn't say incorrect, but yes. Thank you, I appreciate it.
And if you do it with the right mood, it's so powerful. I don't know if she's willing to go off of mute, but Amrita Kishore was just at Govardhan, and so that's one of the 5 most potent items of bhakti. And of course, she was in the right consciousness. So how was that, Amrita Kishore, for you?
It was uplifting. It was invigorating. I'm sorry, I don't have a great vocabulary to express what I was feeling.
Okay, see? There you get it right from the Vaishnavi's mouth. Yeah, so here's a sincere person who has the Chesta Rupa, she's in front of Giriraj, and then working on the bhava, and then what do you get? You get the experience. And that's what I said in the beginning, that we really want to get that real tattvataha in that verse 4:9 of the Bhagavad Gita. We do need to, we want to work on that experiencing Krishna. Not like experiencing it so that we can enjoy, hey, I'm blissed out, but so that we have that feel that deep relationship with Krishna. So Jeffrey, that was a great question. Thank you so much for asking. I see a hand from Bhima Prabhu.
Haribol Prabhu, can I be heard?
You can be heard but not seen. You're like the Akash Vani. Kamsa, you're such a fool. Go ahead.
Yeah. Best I'm not seen right now. I'm just in the middle of running around while I'm speaking here.
You don't have to tell us, just go ahead.
Okay. So wonderful little foray into What is it that we do moment to moment? And I'm reminded of something. I was just talking to another person who is a writer who was telling me about um, her aunt when they used to go pick berries, and her aunt telling her, this is what it's all about, one berry at a time, because you have to pick these particular berries that they were picking. I'm not sure which ones they were, currants, I think, tiny little things. And you literally have to pick hundreds and hundreds. And of course, these women who are doing this picking to make jam, um, they talking amongst themselves and stuff, but it's all about that one berry at a time, and then it builds up, and then you have jam. And so, similarly, this evolution of our consciousness into an understanding that um, Krishna is with us at all times. Krishna's in our heart. Krishna is also can be seen without us, from without, in very easily, of course, in Govardhan Hill, going to, the reason why these are five most important aspects of serving is because they're the most poignant. They're in your face. They involve the senses. You are immersed in it. If you go to Vrindavan, you are immersed in Krishna from the outside, so that it reminds and reflects and echoes what's going on, hopefully, what's going on inside you. So that one berry at a time is, as Jeffrey was saying, whether it be changing diapers or uh, playing Legos or taking a yak tail and swirling it in front of Radha Murlidhar, or lighting some incense, or striking a mridanga, or chanting alone with Tulsi in between your fingers, that these little berries of our time will align to gather many, many, many moments to which we can make this sweet jam of our soul consciousness for Krishna, and then he
Okay,
can
now we have two
enjoy us.
analogies. We have the painting and the jam.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it's good to jam with Krishna. So I think it's to do everything with love.
Yeah.
It's such a simple answer, to do everything with love. Even if it seems to be mundane, it can be made sublime with this love. Um, and because Krishna, it's one thing, oh, I love Krishna, but really that's not what Krishna wants. Krishna wants us to love his children and to love the other souls. And in doing so, Krishna reveals that, he's there in the heart of that baby getting changed. He's there in the heart. Exactly. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. That point about the jam, another way to look, to extract some lesson from that is, like you said, you're picking it one berry at a time. By the way, it reminded me, this is off the topic, but it reminded me when I was a kid, I doubt they have it anymore, but we would go out on Long Island and there would be strawberry patches where you pick your own strawberries and you just honor system, you just put money in the basket. And people did that and didn't steal the money. It was wild when you think of it today. But it's, there's this saying that what you do every day is more important. It has a bigger impact on your life than what you do occasionally. And by that, we mean having good bhakti related habits, such as the way we chant our rounds daily, or the way we read, or the way we honor prasadam, or whatever, things that we do on a daily basis. Therefore, this is, for another day, but talking about just how important it is to look at the kind of habits that we have, because habits make up about 50% of our day-to-day life, and see if we're doing them in a way that bring us closer to Krishna, because they have an accumulative effect. You're not going to go to hell if you chant one time inattentive rounds, but if you just let them go month after month, year after year, without really working on improving them, that has an effect. And if you work on them every day, just water drops on the stone, you end up really being a lover of Krishna as the weeks and months and years go on. So it behooves us to take that step back, to go to the balcony or go in a helicopter and look down on what are our habitual things. And the other thing about habits, on the flip side of that, is to be careful that they don't become niyamagraha. You just pick up you pick up your beads every day, and it's just, okay, I got to do it. I promise 16 rounds. But to do it with that bhava rupa that we were talking about on a regular basis, even so, something you do regularly, you can become mechanical. That's my point. And so when it has to do with bhakti, we should not let it become mechanical. I was thinking about that just 2 days ago, about prasadam, and how I really don't meditate enough on the fact that this prasadam is Krishna's mercy, and I should be thankful and be showing gratitude, and really try not to be doing anything else when I'm eating, and just focusing on the prasadam and chewing, the whole health thing, chewing it 32 times or whatever, but really focusing on Krishna and his kindness, and making it a meditation instead of just something I like to do because it tastes good, but my mind's 50,000 miles away. So.
Prabhu, I have a question in regards to this whole conversation, and expressly what you're saying is that, Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentioned that each of these pastimes of Krishna's Leela, especially when he was a child, have a meaning in our lives, in the here and the now, whether it be duplicity or false guru, putana, duplicity, bakashura, fruitiveness, fruit of behavior,
Yep.
etc. Um, so, and then of course we ask, this happened 5,000 years ago, when we're bhaktas. And no, these pastimes are happening eternally, and they're ever expanding. And they're happening here and now. And that means here within our lives. So we have this Leela that we read about, and it's sort of like a mirror to what should be happening in our lives. So could you maybe, give us a little parsing out of that idea of that Krishna's Leela is happening in the here and now within our lives individually, that we're always at play in the fields of Krishna?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how to react to that. I can say this on a very kind of practical level, that Srila Prabhupada once said that in the future, people will write the history of how Krishna consciousness movement saved humanity. so, and he did say that, the activities of the Krishna consciousness movement are part of Krishna's or Lord Chaitanya's expanded pastime. So that is certainly something we can meditate on. And there's, as you're saying, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote a book about the demons in Vrindavan Leela, and how the demons, like you said, Bhima Prabhu, represent different. So that is there, but that's not the only level. There's also just the level, and it's unlimited. The unlimited level of, as we advance, appreciating more and more the loving exchanges that take place. Sometimes to be honest, when I was a young devotee, immature devotee, like 2 weeks ago, when I heard Krishna's pastimes, I was, yeah, that's nice. But I really want the philosophy, and I was really, especially when I was a brahmachari, I thought the Leela was kind of, oh, that's sweet, but that's not for me. I must admit that was kind of my mood. Fortunate to live in Vrindavan for many years and be here at Govardhan. Not that I have it, but anyway, they're unlimitedly deep, just like Krishna is unlimitedly beautiful. What does that mean? We can't really understand it, right? What is beauty? We know the beauty of this world, and we can appreciate that. What is unlimited beauty? Well, the nicest sunset you've ever seen. Look at that behind the backdrop of where Henry is, right? Or whatever the Himalaya mountains. I get awed every time I fly from Calcutta to Delhi, I always try to get a seat, a window seat on the right side of the plane because you can see the Himalayas. And they're just so majestic because they're just so much bigger than any mountain you'll ever see. You know, Mount Everest, you can see Mount Everest and K2 and all that. But what does unlimited beauty mean? We can't really grasp it. But as we hear Krishna's pastimes, we also can, they are living, as you're kind of indicating, Bhima, they are living, and we can enter into them more and more and more and more. And now our time, if I understand, is correct. It's 5:30 p.m. here. So I think that's 8 o'clock for y'all. Is that right?
Yes, thank you, Vraj Vihari Prabhu.
Thank you for engaging me in Nanda Bihari Prabhu.
Thank you. If Krishna is interested in love, and love is controlling everything in Vrindavan, so why do I here in New York? Why do I have to, pay taxes? Why is Krishna sending all these karma agents my way? Why do I have to obey traffic rules? Why can't I just drive through this material world and jump into Krishna's arms?
Go for it. See what happens. Tell us what happened. You give class next week from jail and let us know. Let us know how that worked for you. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're in the midst, what is George Harrison? Got to get out of this place by the Lord Shri Krishna's grace, my salvation from the material world.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Hey, Sundar, nice to see you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, darshan time. We need more cameras. See, Sundarananda got a new haircut. Keeping his camera on, showing off.
Yeah, I lost all my hair basically. You can put it that way. Amala Gopi asked, "What happened to your hair?" So I don't know. I just had a close haircut. That's all, but I still have some.
Hare Krishna. So Darshan is next. Everyone should come to Govardhan as soon as possible.
Lotus feet of our spiritual master. The only way that we can maintain the devotional service. Our vows, we go to speak by His grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from His lotus mouth. Attachment to His lotus feet is a perfection that fulfills all of that. Opens my dark eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor and the Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. May your fame be spread all over the three worlds. We take shelter at your lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna, welcome to the Afterglow. Bhima Prabhu, thank you very much. Very poetic rant you did. Thank you. Would anyone like to speak? Please go ahead, unmute yourself.
I don't know if
Jamila
you've heard
Jaya.
yet. Yeah, I missed my train, so I have a second. I was just thinking to Jeffrey's wonderful question. I mean, we just had the beautiful flower festival, and it's all based on the Bhagavad Gita that it doesn't matter what's offered. Krishna says, a leaf, a flower, a drop of water, as long as it's done with love and devotion. So I was really just meditating on Jeffrey's question. That's how we do it. Like if we make our lives, everything in our lives, this offering of devotion every single second, like Vraj Vihari said, we have festivals every once in a while, but every day, sorry, here comes the train, we change the diaper, we do the thing, right? If we do every single second with love and devotion, that turns it into a spiritual offering for Krishna. So, very well, gotta go.
Jamila Jaya, thank you so much. Yeah, diaper is technically, it falls within the category of a leaf that you can offer to Krishna, Jeffrey Prabhu. So it all philosophically falls into place. Patram Pushpam, Phalam Toyam, Yome Bhakti Prayachiti. Whatever you do, offer it to me with love and I'll accept it. Jai. Bhima Prabhu, we used the wrong word. We called it ranting, but in reality, it's beautiful poetry. Thank you. Please forgive me if you can. I'm already going to hell, so I'll make it worse for me. Jai. Would anyone like to speak? Please go ahead. I'm talking to the blank screens. Okay, no problem. Thank you very much. One berry at a time, dear devotees, one berry at a time. And then all of a sudden you look back and you have jam, bhakti jam in your head, in your heart. Bhakti jam.
Don't get jammed up.
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking, I got, jam for a brain. But then if you make it bhakti jam, it's all good. We don't want to overthink and, overthinking can be problematic. So no problem. Jam for a brain and go to Krishna. Jai. Dimapur, was that a appropriate elaboration on your poetry? I jammed it up.
I think he's jammed up.
Yeah, you might have jammed it.
Ananda Bihari, your wife knows what to do with jam. You're going to take
Yeah,
your head and put it in a pot and boil it. That's your life, man. She's going to
yeah,
boil it until you become sweet and pure and get rid of all the skin and the seeds and just get to the essence of you. That's what love
yeah,
does.
yeah,
And sometimes love is a high heat. And
yeah,
that's what we get. Your taxes, the things that you have to do every day, all these responsibilities.
yeah.
That's the heat. That's the heat that makes you sweet.
Yeah, sometimes when my wife cranks up the heat for me, then I think it's okay. She's just an agent of my karma. But, that's not how you view it. She's Krishna's
No,
agent. Karma is
she's
one thing,
Krishna's
but
agent.
yes.
She's going to, when she's happy with you, then you know you're becoming a devotee. Then you know, because think about all the Matajis, think about all the Matajis who have given their lives to Prabhupada, who love Prabhupada unconditionally. Think about them. They changed their lives. They put saris on and they became lovers of Prabhupada's mission. And that's the responsibility of a husband, is to become transparent via media to Prabhupada, to bring them to that. And then they will be happy. And then the heat, it'll cool down and you'll be put in a jar and in the refrigerator.
And then I'll be offered to Krishna.
Yes.
Thank you, Bhima Prabhu. Okay, Dana Krishna's Radharani, please unmute yourself and say Hare Krishna. Dana
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you. How sweet. Hare Krishna. Take care, everybody. See you tomorrow. And I'm sure in the forest.